Sexy. Holy Toledo. Whoa, that's something else. I'm having so much fun doing these interviews, Robert.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're Facebook Live, so I'm going to go over there and do the intro while you're still doing that. Don't rush. Facebook, hi, it's me, Linda Marcus Smith, and today we have Robert Coleman Jr. His page says Rob. He sent me an intro to say to you, so let me say that to you right now. Robert Coleman Jr., or Rob, one of Cleveland's best local comics with over 15 years of experience performing in all of Cleveland's comedy clubs, to include Funny Stop, Hilarities, and the Improv. Are you kidding me? Focus is now writing and expanding the Eargasm Comedy brand, which produces online comedy shows, skits, and a podcast. I love Eargasm Comedy. That's where I met him. Also, he helps produce the annual Cleveland Comedy Festival, which brings hundreds of comics from all over the country to Cleveland. It's hot in Cleveland. And I lost my place. Once a year to compete for cash and prizes. Still regularly hosts and features on shows and mentors up and coming comics. OMG, welcome to Comic Spot, a veteran of comedy, Robert Coleman Jr. Woo! Welcome. What you got to say for yourself?
What I got to say to myself? Well, if you make a mistake and don't have a focus in life, you can be a comedian too.
Where did your comedy start from?
That's actually a long story, but I have a short version.
We can go till 5 o'clock.
I was broke.
And now you're rich.
Yeah, and I was still broke. But actually, I was selling insurance, right? And I've always been a fan of comics, and I was trying to figure out a way to talk to people, because when you're in insurance, you have to talk to a lot of people, to sell policies. And I was like, how could I talk to people and they won't slam the door in my face or just leave or, cuss me out? So I figured I would go to an open mic night, and I was going to develop a character that was a comedian insurance agent. And and I was like, I'm gonna be the comedy insurance agent, right? And I thought it was a good idea at the time, and it still didn't help me sell any policies. So, but that's how I got started. Literally, I went down to an open mic, and I kind of fell in love with it. I met some of the local guys that were just really cool guys. Some of those guys are doing like big stuff now in comedy, and that was over 15 years ago. That's when I first started. So,
wow. And you didn't drop any names. You just said some guys that are making it in show business.
Well, a lot of the local guys, there's a lot of local guys like you may have heard of Jim Tools. He's out of New York now. He works a lot in comedy, has done some television. Bill Squire is a local radio personality and has produced like all of these comedy albums. He's on Spotify and all of these different places. There's a lot of different people that have come out of Cleveland that from around my era that are pretty good. Joe Howard, and I mean, just a couple of guys that are just really good, feature and headline comics that are just doing their thing right now.
So you stay in Cleveland mostly, or do you do some road work, tours, or?
I do it on special occasions, like if somebody wants me out of town. And, I know the people, yeah, I'll definitely go for like a friend or something like that. So I've been to like Florida and New York and Pennsylvania, done some stuff in Detroit, so like, within a certain radius, I'll go.
Yeah.
After a while, you start worrying about game money. We're comics, right? We like, am I getting paid, or is this just, show up? So I have to have gas money.
So did you come out of the womb telling jokes, like ever since you can remember you were making people laugh?
I wish I was the funny kid. I was an only child, So I was the weird kid, you know what I mean? Like imaginary friends and a big, huge toy collection, and you know what I mean. I was kind of a weird kid growing up. I lived in a part of the neighborhood where no other kids lived around me. Like most of the kids lived like down the street from me. So when I came down the street to play with the other kids, they was like, "That's the weird kid that lived down the street," and I'm always like, "I'm not weird," you know what I mean? Yeah, I was the weird kid. So I did really kind of develop a love for comedy. I think it's always been like a defense mechanism, you know, because not being used to being around a lot of people, when I get around them, I just felt like I had to do something to ease the tension, and just telling a joke or trying to say something funny was just always me, you know?
So you're kind of the life of the party because you just want to ease up the tension.
My tension, yeah. My tension is rough.
That's really great for comedy because, you know, when you get up on stage, there is a natural tension at the first.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, the thing that even baffles me to this day is that comedy, and you know this, it's super stressful. There's people that are professional comics that still get nervous to this day before they go on stage. It really is kind of like a roller coaster rider. I don't know how to describe it. It's really mental and physical punishment on your body. But we do it because, you know, we just enjoy the reaction, man. That, you know, if I can make a room of 250, 500, 800 people laugh, that's, you know, that's like nectar to me. That's catnip. You know, I love it.
So you said 250 to 800. Have you done a crowd of 800?
Actually, probably close to that. Yeah. I hosted an improv one time for Cedric the Entertainer. And Cedric the Entertainer is, you know, you probably know that name. He's like one of the biggest names in urban comedy. You know what I mean? He's one of the kings of comedy. And it was such an honor to host for him. And that was a huge show because a lot of people showed up. So being able to host for him, that was probably the biggest crowd that I had been in front of. And, you know, they enjoy me. I mean, you know, you got to get the crowd ready for the king, you know what I mean? And I was able to kind of do that for him. So that was just a huge, you know, really just a highlight of my comedy career at this point, you know, so.
Yes. Oh my gosh. How many years were you in comedy before you did that hosting for Cedric?
Oh, maybe 10 years, at least 10, 12 years. So yeah, I wasn't a baby at it or anything like that. I was pretty, you know, seasoned at that point. So I think that's why they trusted me to host for Cedric. You know, at the improv, they don't have you host. They have you host for people that they feel like you're relevant with, right? Because a crowd is coming to see the headliner. So they want the feature and the host to be kind of similar so that the crowd isn't getting like comedy that they don't know or understand. You know what I mean? So to have the improv say, "Yeah, Rob, you host for Cedric," made me feel like I was in the same. I mean, there's no way I'm in Cedric's category, right? Like, there's no way. But it made me feel like, yeah, tonight I am.
Yes, that's so great.
Tonight, me and Cedric the Entertainer are equals.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's got to be such a great thing to accomplish. Congratulations.
Yeah, it was really a highlight. And I've had a chance to host for some comedy legends, Paul Mooney. When I first started, I worked with Dolomite, Rudy Ray Moore. I mean, so I've been blessed to work with like some really big names in comedy.
So how long were you in the business before you figured out your persona? Because you're kind of
I'm glad you
naturally a
mentioned that.
character. What?
I'm glad you mentioned that because that's a big part of when you start out doing comedy. You got to figure out who you are. Like, I think everybody tries to be something else when they first start doing comedy. They feel like they need to be Richard Pryor or they need to be Eddie Murphy or whatever. And that was a big thing I went through because I was like, well, damn, what's my character going to be? Like I told you, I was going to be the comedy insurance agent, right? So I was trying to think of insurance jokes. And then I was like, you know what? I'm pretty good at impressions. So I'm going to be an impressionist, right? So I tried to come up with impressions that all sucked like really bad. I stopped doing that after 6 months. Like, here's my Arnold Schwarzenegger. Get down, get to the chopper. You know, it's pretty good, right? Here's my Sylvester Stallone. get down, get to the chopper. You know, it's kind of similar. And here's my Serena Williams, get down, get to the chopper. I mean, you know, it's like my impressions are really so, you know, coming up with a persona, I just kind of slipped into, you know, I'm almost a late bloomer, so I'm kind of the middle-aged father. That's kind of like my stage persona now. I'm not trying to be blingy Eddie Murphy or, you know, rock star or anything like that. You know, I'm the middle-aged dad guy. That's my persona.
So speaking of dad, how many children, what ages, and do you know what sex they are yet?
Happily male and female. You know, no ambiguous titles with my children. So, not that there's anything wrong with that. You know, so, but I have a 24-year-old daughter and I have a 21-year-old son. So that's why I'm starting to get back into comedy a little more heavy now, because they're basically grown and they don't need me around the house anymore. I kind of took a break when around the time they were like, you know, teenagers, you know, to just make sure they stayed on the right path. Because I used to talk to comics all the time that was performing on stage, and 3 states away, their daughter was having a prom or a birthday or, you know, whatever. And they chose kind of comedy over that. And that's a big choice you have to make when you're a comedian with kids. You know, am I going to be there or am I going to be on stage somewhere? And I chose to be there. You know what I mean? So.
Yes. I raised a daughter by myself from the time she was 4.
Okay.
And I didn't want to do comedy until I was done raising her.
Right. Yeah. Same here. I get that feeling. How old is she now?
She's 44 now.
She's almost my age.
I started really late. We lived together until she was like 38.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. She do comedy too?
No, she thinks that my life is nothing but a joke because I was the perfect mother raising her, just like by the book, you know. And then I got hit by a drunk driver, and then all the rules went out the window because I had a brain trauma.
Oh,
and
wow.
she was taking care of me.
Wow.
So we went our separate ways for her to get time to heal from having to be my caregiver for a long time. And
wow.
And I decided that day I'd do comedy.
Oh, wow, really?
So now I'm kind of like the ditzy, confused little old lady that really doesn't care what people think.
Hey, we love you on the Eargasm shows, man. You do an amazing job, you know.
Thank you so much. I'll have to go back and try to get back on one again sometime soon.
Yeah, your outfits are fire.
Thank you. I refuse to be ignored.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Thank you. What is it that you want to say if you got a chance to find somebody brand new in a coffee shop and you thought this person has the X factor to make it big in comedy? What would you say to that person?
Oh, wow. Ugh. That's kind of hard because I got a sister-in-law that's really, really funny that I've been trying to get to do comedy for a while. I mean, just our conversations are just hilarious. If she honed that into setups and punchlines, she would be one of the top comics in Cleveland, easy. So knowing what to say to that person to get them started is really kind of tough. I mean, the only thing I could say is try an open mic. Because once you try an open mic, if you really got the gift and the I don't know what I want to say, the drive or the need to do comedy, because it really is therapeutic too. You know, I was talking about how nerve-wracking it is, but when you get off stage, it is kind of therapeutic. So I would say just try an open mic. Have you ever tried an open mic? You know, I tell people that a lot. I really do. Have you ever tried an open mic? Have you went to an open mic? You know, get on the internet, get on your phone and see if comedy open mic, see if one is open near you. If you get on stage, most open mics will let you on stage and do 3 to 5 minutes and just talk. You don't even have to have any written material. I tell comics about if you ever read a recipe card, you know, like one of them little recipe cards you get like in a magazine or something like that. That's about the amount of time you want your first comedy set to be. So if you could talk about as much information that's on a recipe card, you can go and do a quick 3 to 5 minutes in just about anybody's open mic. You know what I mean? And once you do it and you get some crowd reaction and you feel that feeling, and it's like, wow, that was, you know, my stomach was hurting before I got on stage, and now I feel good. You know, I my stomach was bubbling, and you know, I was nervous. I felt like I was gonna throw up, and now I feel good. You know, that feeling is priceless. You know what I mean? So I tell anybody, at least try it. It's like crack. You know, it's like drugs or whatever. Try. Hey, you want to try this? You know, as soon as you try it, I think that's when the bug bites. You know what I mean? But you got to try it. You know.
What's the craziest thing that you've seen happen at a comedy show that you're like, that was the craziest night ever? I can't believe I wasn't sure if we were going to be safe, or I can't believe that they forgot that even happened, or like I've seen some crazy stuff happen at comedy mics and shows. Crazy.
Yeah.
You got to see some crazy stuff.
I mean, I've been lucky. I mean, I've seen a few people maybe kicked out of a comedy show. I've been kind of lucky. I think Paul Mooney, the first night he performed, insulted a bunch of white people and almost got in a fight with some white lady that was like completely offended by his comedy. I mentioned that because that was one of the first times I saw. I mean, he's a veteran comic, right? He wrote for Richard Pryor. I mean, this guy is from the 60s, and you know, this is like maybe early 2000s when I hosted for him, and to see people just absolutely hate his guts and just, you know, walk out yelling and mad at him, that was kind of a wake-up call, like, oh well, I guess everybody's not gonna like you. I guess this is not for everybody. You know what I mean? But I've seen, you know, people get stuff thrown at them, you know, at some of the local clubs. You know, I've seen a couple of guys like getting arguments, altercations off the stage. Like once you get off the stage, I seen this happened to me. I was at a show and this drunk lady came up on the stage and tried to grab the microphone out my hand. I'm like, I don't know why. I'm like, why do you want the microphone? I want to say something. Well, you know, say it just loud without the microphone. You ain't got to have the microphone.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it's been cool. I got to admit, it ain't gotten too crazy, but you know, just mostly alcohol and comedy don't always mix. I'll just put it that way.
Now, you seem like you started and shot to the moon right from the beginning, that your learning curve was very short. If I had to guess.
I will admit, we had a comedy place. Do I have any of those awards? I started winning awards like early. We had a Cleveland Urban Comedy Festival. What was that called? It was some sort of Council of Cleveland Urban Comedy. And I didn't even know these guys was looking at me, right? And the first year I started, I got nominated for like 2 or 3 awards, like best up and coming comic, best new comic, and you know, all of these other stuff. And I actually won quite a few of them. I should have sent you the picture. I have a picture of me holding all these awards. I won like in the first year or 2 of me doing comedy. So you couldn't tell me I wasn't the coldest comic coming out of Cleveland in 2002, you know. But, you know, life happens, you know what I'm saying? So I learned some really good lessons about that, you know what I mean? But yeah, I would say my start was kind of fast, you know, because of the awards and stuff. But I learned really quickly that comedy really is a career. You know, one of the guys, the owner of Improv, had told me when I finally started getting good enough to host, he was like, because I asked him, I was like, what advice would you give me? He was like, quit your job. And I was like, I can't quit my job. I got healthcare. I got babies. You know what I'm saying? My kids were like, you know, like 4 and 5 years old. I was like, I can't quit my job. He was like, then just be happy where you at. And I never will forget that, because that was powerful to me. And it was with no hesitation when he told me that. You know, I was like, what I got to do next? He's like, quit your job. And I was too, you know, scared to do it. So don't be scared. You know what I mean? I would give that advice to comics. If you feel like you're good, don't be scared to take the leap. You know what I mean? Go to get on the road, get a mentor, you know, start calling some comedy clubs, get a video package together, get your, you know, social media presence up and get out there. You know what I mean? Don't be scary. Don't be scary.
Wow. Yeah, my comedy career was very, very slow because
Hmm.
I started with a brain injury, and my brain injury hadn't cleared up at first. I had to read material, like I have notes because of this, and I was like explaining for a first minute, losing the audience and looking at notes the whole time.
Yeah.
And finally, my brain, through relaxing on stage, got better to where now I don't look at notes. So that's great.
You know what? You take it and you make it into part of your routines. I've seen comics that stutter, that are like brilliant comics. I've seen I saw a deaf comic. You know, I told you we have the Cleveland Comedy Festival. The last one we had a deaf comic come to town and was hilarious. I've seen comics, one of our local comics, Martin Malloy, he's a comic that has had, like, I think a brain injury, but he had a character for years called Schizo Bill that he would get on stage and do Schizo Bill, and it was hilarious. I mean, he's probably one of the best writers comedy wise in Cleveland. I mean, so you take that and you take that pain and make it other people's pleasure, you know?
I love that. That's a good
Mm.
encouragement for me to come up with a character.
Yep. As long as it's you, man, I swear. I was the characters I was trying to do also. I had bought a shiny suit. Like when I first started, I thought I needed a shiny comedy suit. So I bought this silver comedy suit, right? And I recently found an old tape of me performing in that thing and was like, oh, I look like a damn disco ball telling jokes
Oh
like that.
my gosh. Well, what would you like to say to people before you head off and I close out for the hour? You've been so gracious to come on and spend time. I'm glad to get to know you, but would you like to say anything to people that they don't know about you, or maybe that they misinterpret you, or things to do or not do, or anything?
Yeah, I mean, I would say if this is advice for comics, be yourself. You know what I mean? Don't try to be somebody else. Don't try to do everything that the crowd is doing. Um, and write. You know, a lot of comics feel like, well, I'm funny. I just get on stage and talk. And there are, people that could do that. You know, you want to just get on stage and talk. I mean, that's really good. I mean, some people are hilarious at that. I think Tiffany Haddish has a style that's similar to that, where she just kind of can get on stage and whatever happens, she can riff on it and do a half hour, 20 minutes. That's really walking a tightrope in comedy. So I would say if you want to try comedy, if you want to do comedy, really write down some things about yourself that are unique. Make that your first comedy set. It's hard to forget a joke when it's about you. You know what I mean? And that, I mean, you probably could attest to this. You get on stage and sometimes you forget your whole set. Like, oh, what? Hello, I don't know what I'm gonna say. You know what I mean? So be yourself. Write down unique things about yourself if you're gonna try comedy. As far as life goes, don't be afraid to take a leap. You know what I mean? Because living life is really about faith. Most people that are successful, I remember hearing a story about Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey said that when he was broke and living in a car, he wrote himself a check for $1 million and kept it, like stuck it in his pocket and just kept it for years. You know what I mean? Broke, living in a car, and was finally able to cash that check like years later. You know what I mean? And it's like you got to have that kind of belief, not only about comedy, but just about life. You know what I mean? You got to have just an unwavering belief that you're going to be successful. And no matter what, your situation looks like right now. I remember, I think hearing about, I want to say Martin Lawrence drove somewhere to do a comedy contest in DC with no money. And now, look at him today. You know what I mean? So most of the most successful comics will tell you they just took a leap of faith and had undying sort of conviction that something was going to come of this. I think Kevin Hart has a similar story. So when you read people's biographies and get that belief in yourself, and then get out there and try it. You know, I wish I thought like that. The way I think now, I wish I thought like that when I first started comedy, because, you know, I would probably be in a different place. But I'm really, really happy where I'm at right now. I can't complain at all because I'm in a position where I can tell other people. So
That's amazing. I love looking at your eyes. I can see the ocean in your eyes. You know, when the
no,
last
that's
time
Lake Erie. I
I
live in
can see
Cleveland.
it,
That's Lake Erie.
I can see to your soul. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of people nowadays. People are so confused or distracted. You can't really connect with them totally. And you're just so connected. You know, you're so believable and likable, and you're right there present. It's a pleasure.
But you are too.
I don't know where I'm supposed to look. This is the stupidest thing. You have to look at yourself, and the camera is way up there, you know, and like I don't get it. I'm just all over the map trying to do this. So anyway,
Yeah, this stuff is crazy.
it
This
is
internet, this internet's. How do you work this? Where is it? Where is it?
if something goes haywire, you have to think like a millennial to fix it. There's no
Exactly.
longer one answer. You know, it used to be you just unplug it and plug it back in, it fixed itself. Now there's 14 different ways to fix something.
Right. You wanna laugh at something on a Sunday morning? Try to find an old Baptist church that ain't been able to have services, so they're trying to do them online for the first time. And you seeing some 80-year-old choir director like, how do you do it? Where the camera? And we all sing. Funniest thing in the world. To watch 80-year-old Baptist people try to figure out how to work the internet.
A little bit of cussing going on.
Right. I think the
Thank you.
devil is in here.
I'll see you back at Eargasm Comedy real soon. So what can I plug for you on this post?
Just keep coming to Eargasm Comedy. We do a Wednesday night deep space podcast where we talk about serious topics. This Wednesday we're going to talk about the election and the choice between Trump and Biden. I'm really looking forward to that because I'm a Biden supporter, but I kind of am the guy that kind of understands where the Trump people are coming from. Even with all of his faults, I kind of understand it. So I'm looking forward to having some people on to kind of talk about those differences. So
Okay.
that's deep space. And then Fridays we do a comedy show. And then Saturdays we do a light show called Random Tandem where we talk about pop culture. So eargasmcomedy.com, you can get on there and hear past shows and get information about future shows.
Got it. I'll add it to this thingamajig when I'm going to go watch Steve Marshall. He's doing a show. And then after that, I'll come back and add this to the post.
Oh, that's awesome.
Thank you so much, Robert Coleman Jr. You guys, you heard it first. Thank you. Love you.
Hercules. And sorry about my doo-doo in the background. That's actually the only background I could find. It's a game that I saw in a grocery store. And I thought it was hilarious. So I took a picture of it and I can't get it out of my background now. So.
I didn't mind. I just pretended it was chocolate ice cream.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Right here does look delicious.
The white guys are the minority. That's
right.
not time.
Right. He does look way too happy to be dealing with a bunch of duty right now. Yeah, this guy right here.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, Linda. Thank you. All right.